Okay. Okay, we're on. All right, the word for today, and it's Mother's Day. I honor and bless the world's mothers. Today I offer a blessing of gratitude for the loving, nurturing spirit of mothers. I bless my mother and those who have shared a mother's love by supporting me throughout my life. I think of the many ways they have been present for me over the years. Oh, I just thought about my mom. What an incredible human being she was. We did perform all the time we were growing up. She made all our clothes that we wore to school. She made all our costumes. And she was a cold basement for a long time until they figured out how to put heat down there. But she would be down there sewing first on the machine that was a treadle, and then it became an electric machine. And that was when the heat came on. So I guess she kept warm by the treadle. But she was amazing. And then she booked all our jobs, and we were on the radio and on television. Kids would go home at lunchtime, and we would be going to school, and we'd leave at lunchtime by my mom picking us up. We'd go to the television station. We'd rehearse the song and dance routine that we had. We'd perform, and then we'd come home. And the kids, if they watched television, which there were only maybe one station or two maybe, they'd see us at lunchtime on television, and then they'd see us sitting next to them. But that did not make us popular. We were the oddest things, so in their eyes. And so I probably was a bit damaged by that, but I appreciate all the performing we did, and I went to New York City because of her, and I had quite a bit of success. I was working on an act just before I met Jack with Barry Manilow. We were working on doing I'd be the comedian type thing, and he'd be the piano player, and we'd sing songs and stuff. But then he met Bette Midler, and she knew who she was. I had no idea who I was, had always been in a trio, so I'm so glad that he got to have the success that he has become. What an incredible, not only piano player, but a human being. He played for all the new people that were coming to New York. He was such a gifted person, and was so gracious. So we're going to do a call and response, and I'll do the call, and then you respond. Okay. We're going to do it to the sounds of the drum. More love, more kindness, more peace in our world. More love, more kindness, more peace in our world. And I will live your love with all of my heart. And I will live your kindness with all of my mind. And I will live your peace with all of my life. For For you are my guide. For you are my friend. More kindness, more peace in our world, more love, more kindness, more peace in our world. And I will live your love with all of my heart. And I will live your kindness with all of my mind. And I will live your peace with all of my life. For you are my guide. For you are my friend. More love, more kindness, more peace in our world, more love, more kindness, more peace in our world, more love, more kindness, more peace in our world. More love, more kindness, more peace in our world.
Okay, how's that?
Better.
Thank you, Josh. Today's talk title is A Journey Without Distance. But most of us here are on that journey. And decades ago, I found a book that was written by a Frenchman who never finished it. His name, the author's name, was René Dumas. And the title of the book is Mount Analog. That book has kind of been with me from a metaphysical perspective for 20 years. And I have literally finished that book in my mind. I did write up a number of things about it, but in the passage of time, I have not got those papers anymore. So I will be sharing with you the insights of this particular story written, entitled Mount Analog. It is also about a journey, but it is a journey to a mountain that cannot be seen with the naked eye. A select group of people take up an expedition to locate Mount Analog, and then to climb it if they can get to it. It's a fascinating book by someone who never wrote a novel. He wrote only deep discourses on consciousness and truth and spiritual awareness, and he was an editor of all that stuff and things like that. He was a seeker beyond seekers. He tried so many different paths of causing the mind to reveal itself, wanting to know the ultimate truth of consciousness. He died at the age of 36 from tuberculosis. And this was back around 1920, 1930. So Mount Analog and the expedition that seeks to find this mountain and climb it is taking place. They find it through keen intuition. They do a lot of researching, but their keen intuition leads them to realize that there's certain patterns in this ocean, somewhere near the South China Sea. There's a pattern taking place there that doesn't go with the rest of the ocean. And they say that Mount Analog must be there. Has to be some kind of mass, land mass in that area. So they sail to Mount Analog, and it's a journey, and they find their way in. And they find a civilization of people living on this island around Mount Analog. And they have to, buy some of the equipment they're going to need to climb this mountain that goes all the way, the peak of it disappears into the sky. Mountains have, down through the ages, always been used as symbolic images for the relationship between heaven and earth, between the divine and mankind. And this is not an isolated idea of climbing this mountain as the spiritual journey that a person ultimately, as A Course in Miracles says, must take. Because actually we're born with the desire for a fulfillment that cannot come in any other way except through personal transformation in awareness. And the masters have always related to that down through the ages. So at some point we will, or we should, take to task our own awareness. We're not going to find it outside of ourselves in the illusionary world, awareness we were born into. So the plan of life seems to be that a person will reach that understanding that this fulfillment cannot be found in the material existence, body-minded awareness. It can only be found in transformation of awareness, in consciousness. So mountains have always represented that. And they've always represented the ideal in so many different ways, but it is the transformation from sensory awareness to soul awareness. The soul being who we actually are. And the sensory awareness being simply a projection that we allow to move us through the time-space continuum of life, always attempting to learn and become one again with that reality of the divine soul. This novel, Mount Analog, is literally about a select group of people who set out to find Mount Analog and climb it. There are numerous spiritual insights in this entire story, but the insights have been derived from my mind, my thinking, because it is a very deep, mystical type of thing that's being related. People may have different insights than mine. And because I was so interested in this particular book that I wrote it, again, I finished it. So what you're getting today is not going to be, you'll probably read the book at some point if you decide to, and say, geez, I don't get this. I don't know how did Jack get that from this or whatever. So you're subject to my insights into the symbolic ideas, and they're all symbolic in Mount Analog. From the very mountain itself, to the people on this journey, to the people who are living around this mountain. It's all symbol of the spiritual journey, which is something that takes place within us. So I will be sharing with you one particular insight from the book. While they were in town and they had to collect their supplies and the equipment they needed to climb this incredible mountain, they were informed by the people that there are levels on this mountain where you will have to surrender certain things that would seem to be dear to you. You would have to surrender certain ideals. You'll have to surrender equipment, or you'll have to surrender attachments as you go up this mountain if you expect to reach the peak. And some of the people that are talking to them about this are people that attempted to climb this mountain, but at a certain point had to turn back. Some of them had to turn back because they could not make the required surrender that was required of them at a certain level. Others were turned back because they violated one of the laws on that level, which created conflict, huge chaos on the mountain itself. I'll give you an example of one One man is separated from his expedition party and is lost on the mountain and becomes very, very hungry. And he sees what they call a rock rat, which is actually a cross between a gopher and something else in that mystical mountain. And he knows at this particular level he's not supposed to eat meat. But he takes a rock and he kills this rock rat and he devours it. But he is forced by guides that come up and take him and move him out. He cannot go on from that point on because he has done something egregious. And they already know what's going to happen. That rat, you see, there's wasps that lived, and they would get the nectar from the flowers and the plants, and those plants and flowers were necessary to hold the mountain in place and the terrain in place. But the rat would eat the old wasps that can no longer do that, or the wasps that became sick. This rat would eat them, so that the colony of wasps that kept that mountain flowing with plants were fine. But when that rat was killed, all those wasps eventually developed disease and couldn't carry on and couldn't keep pollinating and couldn't keep the plants growing. And the entire mountain just in that area just collapsed. Huge collapse of the mountain everywhere, causing tremendous conflict. All right, well, the whole object of this consciousness of traveling up this mountain is the fact that when you break the law, you create a conflict that disqualifies you at that point in the journey. And this person had to go back for years to work out the karma he had contracted in doing that. But Eckhart Tolle speaks to this whole idea very clearly. He gives an entire chapter to the concept of surrender on the spiritual journey. This is an excerpt from that. Can we have this PowerPoint, please? You can read this in Stillness Speaks on page 68, paragraph 1. Surrender becomes so much easier when you realize the fleeting nature of all experiences and that the world cannot give you anything of lasting value. You then continue to meet people, to be involved in experiences and activities, but without the wants and fears of the egoic self. That is to say, you no longer demand that a situation, person, place, or event should satisfy you or make you happy. Its passing and imperfect nature is allowed to be. We take that back again, please. Surrender becomes much easier, that's supposed to be 2 words, when you realize the fleeting nature of all experiences and that the world cannot give you anything of lasting value. You then continue to meet people, to be involved in experiences and activities, but without the wants and fears of the egoic self. That is to say, you no longer demand that a situation, person, place, or event should satisfy you or make you happy. Its passing and imperfect nature is allowed to be. It's amazing that this comes through so clearly. Allowing the situation, the condition, the relationship that you're going through at any given time, allowing it to be, shows that there has been a surrender to the oneness and the movement of life on its own. The idea of being a personal self whose needs, desires, and wants have to be met for there to be harmony is illusionary. True harmony happiness, peace, joy, true health, true life is being one with the ongoing circumstances in which we find ourselves. Thank you, Eckhart Tolle, for being so cogently clear on all of that. In the story of Mount Analog, those who are going to climb the mountain are informed of the different levels and the different laws that have to be acknowledged, laws that they will only discover as they get there to that particular level. And so, along the way, they're going to have to realign, readjust their thinking, etc. There's an interesting element in the story about on this mountain, there are paragrams, which is what they refer to as a jewel that is so pure and clear that it's hard to ever see one or find one, because it's just perfectly clear. It just blends in whatever it is. But it is a mind-transforming mechanism that shifts your awareness of time and space in a certain way that it brings you into a higher level of awareness. If you find one of these, it brings you into this higher level of awareness where you only always have peace. So that's an interesting point on this journey. This information that these people receive about these different things come from most of these people that are living in this town and have accepted life as it is. This is their life. Most of them never believed that they could climb this mountain and reach the peak. Climbing the mountain would be futile unless you ultimately were able to climb and reach the peak, because at the peak there would be God conscious awareness. So that the goal for anyone who climbs would be that, yet so many fall back because of what has to be surrendered along the way cannot be surrendered, or the laws are just too intricate and they can't fulfill those laws at a certain level, and then they're forced back down to work out because their karma is such that they're not capable of going on toward the peak. So, as it has been related, such a metaphor of this mountain and this climb and the conflict and suffering caused by breaking the laws on this journey. What it really indicates, and again, you're not going to find this said by Dumas in his book, what it really indicates is that one becomes either more mindful of his or her thoughts while on the journey toward enlightenment. One either becomes more mindful of his or her thoughts or becomes drawn in more fully and totally by the distractions, which are the levels of the world. And so one finally doesn't give a lot of credence to being mindful about what is being thought. And the problem that we've always had is that we don't think that holding thoughts, certain thoughts, limited thoughts, negative thoughts, fully affect us. We think, yeah, possibly if we say negative thoughts about others or speak about negative thoughts and we put them out there to other people and things like that, that would have an effect. But we are taught in the first stage of our consciousness to believe that our thoughts really do not have an overt effect upon us personally. And the fact of the matter is that there is no such thing as being personal. Take that in. There is no such thing as being strictly personal. So it is not possible for anyone who even conceives of himself or herself as personal to hold limited thoughts, negative thoughts, fearful thoughts, without it having an effect on everything, everyone around them. The same way that the people climbing that mountain, whatever they're doing, whatever they're thinking, however they're proceeding, they are affecting everything that lives on that mountain. So it is a very pure and difficult journey along the way. The difference between Dumal, the author of this particular work, and myself, Dumal believes that the entire spiritual journey is accomplished by the acuity, the ability, the wherewithal, the wisdom gathered by man along the way. So that's what his idea is of the journey, while my idea is that along the way there's a meeting that comes with this higher self, or Christ within, or Buddha nature, that begins to enter into the considerations and contemplation of the person who is living this journey. So we are in that situation, and you may believe that it is all man's ultimate gaining of wisdom that allows the person to prevail and reach the enlightened state. I do not believe that. I believe that Course in Miracles calls it the Holy Spirit or Christ. We ultimately start to become keenly intuitive, but that intuition comes from divine intelligence or God or the Holy Spirit or Christ, so that we know things that we couldn't have known, that we didn't gain through experience. We simply know, and we do those things, and they play out to bring healing, harmony, and peace, so that we ultimately find ourselves living in this ideal of divine intuition, or the guidance of the living present Spirit of God. And Tolle speaks clearly about this mindfulness. And Tolle might agree more with Dumal than I do. But let's have this next PowerPoint. Whenever you are able, have a look inside yourself to see whether you are unconsciously creating conflict between the inner and the outer, between your external circumstances at the moment, where you are, who you are with, or what you are doing, and your thoughts and feelings. Can you feel how painful it is to initially, internally stand in opposition to what is? When you recognize this, you also realize that you are free to give up this futile conflict, this inner state of war. Take this back again. You can see how this recommended yoga that Tolle is sharing here, this recommended yoga is the kind of yoga that leads to the mindfulness in which we are willing to live the now moment without wanting, without fearing, without grasping. We're living the now moment in oneness. We're appropriate at last with the moment of life. Whenever you are able, have a look inside yourself to see whether you are unconsciously creating conflict between the inner and the outer, between your external circumstances at the moment, where you are, who you are with, or what you are doing, and your thoughts and feelings. Can you feel how painful it is to internally stand in opposition to what is? When you recognize this, you also realize that you are not free to give up this futile conflict, this inner state of war. Oh, wait a minute. Realize that you are. There's a knot in there. Okay.
I was confused.
All right. That's good. I'm glad you caught that. And if we can we get that removed from this PowerPoint? Well, actually, I'm not doing the next service, so it's fine. Leave it in. I understand it. So you realize once that you are free to give up this futile conflict, this inner state of war. Okay, as has been repeated a lot from and through A Course in Miracles, Mount Analog does occasionally reiterate this necessity to be awake while on this journey. And you can't just be casually awake. In other words, the journey has to be so important, or become so important, that one does a spiritual practice every day and carries the ideal of that practice with him or her through the circumstances of life, because we are karma yogis. We do not renounce the world. We do not withdraw to a monastery or an ashram or a convent. We remain in the world, but we have to be keenly awake to remain in the world and keep the priority which proves the mindfulness. The priority that proves mindfulness is peace. Can you sustain peace through the changing conditions and circumstances of the world in which you live and move and work and have your physical life? To the degree that you can attain and sustain peace, you are becoming enlightened. To the degree that you lose that peace, when you find and discover you're having inner resistance to a certain people you're with, to certain conditions that arise, to your work, to wherever it is, it means that your illusionary consciousness of self, which you were born into and raised in and educated in by the world, is still very much with you. Your practice is not focused enough yet for you to be able to sustain peace of mind. Till you can sustain peace of mind, there is practice to be done. That's simply what that all relates to. And this is cogently, beautifully related in many of the passages of A Course in Miracles. This next passage says it the way it is. Can we have this? You can read this in the Course in Miracles text, the old text, page 206. In the new edition, it's on page 222. Salvation is for the mind, and is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved, and the only way to save it. Any response other than love arises from a confusion about the what and the how of salvation. And this is the only answer. Never lose sight of this, and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. For you will surely place yourself among the poor who do not understand that they dwell in abundance and that salvation is come. Can we take this back again, please? Salvation is for the mind and is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved and the only way to save it. Any response other than love arises from a confusion about the what and the how of salvation. And this is the only answer. Never lose sight of this, and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. For you will surely place yourself among the impoverished, who do not understand that they dwell in abundance and that salvation is come. That is so perfectly said, it doesn't need any response. We're going to take some time to meditate. Take a couple of deep breaths as you release your breath. Come into the moment as you release your breath. Choose peace. And we learn as we go that when we catch negative emotions and feelings arising, we can shift our thinking either by picking up some spiritual material to read or by bringing to mind an affirmative ideal that we carry with us during the day. But for now, let us be here at peace. You can gently influence and inspire your mind with this mantra. By expressing love, the self as one, peace returns. God's will is done. By expressing love, the self as one, peace returns. God's will is done. By expressing love, the self as one, peace returns. God's will is done. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with a greater determination to be awake on this journey without distance. For this opportunity in every moment, we give thanks. And to this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. As we're preparing to do this, those of you watching online, you can scroll down to where it says donate. You may have a code, promotion code there that you can photograph. It will take you to Venmo or PayPal. And those of you here on your handout, you have a CR code. So you can use that and put it on your refrigerator. Or you can just make a donation by cash, check, or credit card. As we bring these tithes and gifts into our hands, let's bless them with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
May the message of God spread far and wide. May the message of God spread far and wide. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. Disclose to us thy divine light. Disclose to us thy divine light. Amen.
Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the work of unity, which is to bring to light in the minds of those who are ready the awareness of the divine intelligence so that we can become emissaries of light. That is our dedication, this tithe, to the Spirit of truth and to that victory of the Spirit of truth, that we are first, foremost, and always divine beings going through a human school. Amen. So we have tea and refreshments in Fellowship Hall. I can meet you over there, those of you who like to stay and chat, talk about this talk, or ask questions.
We also have a gift store and books, but mostly gifts. Check it out. It's one of the best ones in Boulder.
Okay. So, to everyone, have an enlightened day.